Hello, everybody. Welcome to Shadow at Night. This is Tuesday, April the 15th, 2025. On the show tonight, Mark Carney suggests he will stand up for the Charter of Rights and Freedoms proudly. This is the same guy who advised the Trudeau government 3 years ago to freeze people's bank accounts and actually called the Freedom Convoy sedition. In an op-ed he wrote for the Globe and Mail, or maybe the Toronto Star, it was 3 years ago. We're going to get into all of that in just a couple of minutes. Also, Pierre Poilievre stands by. He was asked by reporters today, and he stands by defunding the CBC. But he did say something I didn't like too much today. We have to get past this tariff thing. We have to get past this Trump thing, because that only gives the Liberals fuel. And we see polls evening up. Right? The past few days, we're starting to see a more level. Mind you, Jagmeet Singh did say today that we shouldn't believe the polls. So I don't know what the heck is going on with all of this stuff. I got some bad news just about 10 minutes ago from one of our viewers. And it comes from a post by Chris Barber on his official Big Red Facebook account. And he says, now all I know is this post. I haven't spoken to Chris or to Mara, but this is what Chris posted exactly 26 minutes ago. My family got bad news today. The Crown prosecutor wants to lock Tamara Leach and I up in prison for 2 years. For what now? I guess for standing up for freedom. They also want to seize my truck, Big Red, and crush her like she's just scrap metal or sell it at auction. But Big Red isn't just a truck. She's part of my family. She's part of Canadian history. I got her in 2003. My son Jonathan, 7 months old, was her first passenger. My dog Buddy rode with me for 1 million kilometers and passed away in her seat. With 3.4 million kilometers, Big Red carried my life's highs and lows. Her proudest moment was leading the Freedom Convoy in 2022, uniting Canadians for our rights. That's why the Liberal government wants her gone. It's not about a vehicle. It's about erasing hope. They want to erase the spirit of the convoy and make an example out of us so no one ever dares stand up again. So obviously, we will try to get Chris and Tamara on the show, hopefully tomorrow night. Thursday night, we've got guests booked from BC Strong. This is a new provincial political party in British Columbia, obviously. James Davidson, our friend, is coming on Thursday night with Dr. Stephen Malthouse and Dr. Charles Hoff, hopefully, to discuss all of these new totalitarian bills they want to pass, the NDP wants to pass in BC, which would pretty much cripple any professional freedom that BC has right now for anybody who actually is a certified professional at anything. So we're going to discuss that on Thursday night, and we'll definitely try and get Chris and Tamara on, or at least one of the two, tomorrow night to talk more about this, maybe give us some more details. I mean, their case is over. It's done. They haven't been sentenced yet. Sentencing, by the way, I think was to happen tomorrow. Not sentencing, but the date when we find out their sentence will be set tomorrow, April the 16th, and we don't know when that is yet, but I guess Chris just heard about this today, so very, very, very sorry to hear that, my man. And if you want to come on and talk about it, you and Tamara are more than welcome to come on and join the show tomorrow night. Shadow at Night live stream, as always, is brought to you by CanadaNanoSilver.com.
Silver is amazing. It has several natural health benefits, and it's been used for hundreds of years for health and healing. That's the main reason they made silverware from silver. But seriously, this nano silver from Silverceuticals is the best and safest silver you can find. There are hundreds of studies and reports on it. I've read some of the studies myself, and it's mind-blowing. One of the things that sets Silverceuticals apart is that it washes out of your body in 24 hours. No silver buildup and no turning blue. And it won't even harm the good bacteria your body needs. It's so effective, they can use very small concentrations of silver, like 10 and 32 parts per million, and still outperform other silvers that have up to 3,000 parts per million. It's safer and more effective at the same time. It is an incredibly small particle that is small enough to work through your body, but big enough not to fall out of suspension. They infuse it into almost all of their products. It works in facial serums, toothpaste, gels, and even gummies that work to help your immune system.
Kevin and Anna stood with us and have been standing with us. They were at the Freedom Convoy. Canada Nano Silver. Kevin and Anna. They run Canada Nano Silver. Call today, 204-808-9292. Check out all of the fantastic products they have for you at CanadaNanoSilver.com. Instead of buying from large conglomerates owned by BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, like Shoppers Drug Mart, and all the other biggies, you get from our people, Kevin and Anna, CanadaNanoSilver.com. You know, if I lived in Quebec, I would strongly consider voting for the Bloc Québécois, depending on the riding I was living in, right? You look at the ridings, you go, who's got a chance to win here? Well, I don't want the Liberals to win. So usually the only opposition in Quebec is the Bloc. In most of the seats anyway. There are about 10 or 11 conservative seats in Quebec, but mostly it's between the Bloc and the Liberals. And I don't want the Liberals to get in, so I might vote Bloc, not just because of that, but because of this guy. For as much as I don't agree with him pretty much 100% ideologically whatsoever, I kind of like his style. You can respect and admire somebody while still disagreeing with them at the same time. Yves-Francois Blanchet, in a press conference this morning, talking about the French language debate, which is scheduled for tomorrow. Watch this.
I would like anybody else, to watch the game. I would like yesterday's game to be a win for the Canadians because the young Russian was on ice. He scored. Then we would have been done with this season, and then the playoff would have begun. And we will have time to watch it because in May we will be free. But now I believe that some questions are very serious about Canada's future and Quebec's future, and maybe some attention should be given to the debate. If the date can be changed, let's do that. I will, of course, make myself available at any moment. We'll look into that.
And so he got his wish there. Do dat, if we can do dat. Reminds me of an Impractical Jokers episode where they call out the names, the receptionists, they call out names and their ridiculous names. And one time, one of them had to say, "Did he do that? Did he do that?" Without laughing. You can't laugh. If you laugh, you lose. So anyway, Yves-Francois Blanchet got his wish. CTV News, left-wing corporate media, has learned tomorrow's French language leaders debate has been moved to avoid overlapping with a critical Montreal Canadiens game. Is that what Canada is? Hockey above all else? Maybe in Quebec. You know the old joke, right? Doggy style. I'm sorry, I'm picking on Quebec tonight. I don't mean to, but yeah, that came to my mind. A Montreal Canadiens game that may actually wind up meaning nothing. That's interesting. So the event begins at 6 o'clock Eastern tomorrow, not 7 as originally scheduled. So 5 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock Mountain, 3 o'clock in British Columbia for all you French speakers in BC and Alberta. Because I know there's so many of you. And while I was scrolling around today on social media, I found this. And I thought, you know what? I'll bet you guys would enjoy this. Don't forget to like and share. Before I play this thing, I've forgotten completely to say hello to Robert from Kelowna, and Stephen watching on Facebook. I don't know where you're from, Stephen, but hello. Jonathan watching on YouTube from Newcomerstown, Ohio tonight. Hello, Amanda. How you doing? It is disgusting about Big Red. Mike, hello, watching on Facebook. David in Gilbert Plains, Manitoba. Hello, Sheila in the Schwa. Kay Stewart's watching on YouTube, who says that's absolutely ridiculous, referring to the news about Chris Barber and Tamara Leach. Carol, hello. How you doing? Watching on Facebook. Bob is watching on Facebook tonight. Gloria says, what the? Diane, I'm freaking believable with the actual FK. Diane is watching on Facebook tonight. Glenn is watching from Kenora on Facebook as well. All you folks who are watching on Facebook or X or Rumble, like Roween30, Rico Suarez, Susie Q57, Chicken Hair, Leona, World Peace, Nutsy, Starliner 1961. Don't forget to like and share. Get this out to as many people as you possibly can. Thank you very much. Okay, here's that cartoon. This is a this is a cartoon about the upcoming debate. Now, the English language debate is going to be on Thursday night. It's going to start at 6 o'clock my time, 6 o'clock Central. And I am moving the show up Thursday night. No, hang on. No, I'm not. Yeah, I guess I will. You know what? I'll move the show up so we can cover the debate live, and then we will have our interview with the BC Strong guys a little bit later on. So it's going to be a bit of a longer night for this show on Thursday. I hope you don't mind. So Thursday night, the English language debate. And here's an AI-generated cartoon preview.
All right, Canada, brace for this snooze fest debate. Carney, dazzle us.
Oh, thrilled to be here with the little people. Saved global banks, but your $2,000 rent. Not my circus. Not my monkeys. My blind trust so pure. It's practically a saint. French? Lasai. Who cares?
Riveting. Sing. Try not to bore us to death.
Hey, Canada, love your pain. Promise free everything, but oops, back Trudeau while your wallet cried. Inflation's cute, right? Check my latest reel, way more fun than your empty fridge.
Wow, a real hero. Blanchet, your turn to whine.
Quebec is the only Canada that matters. Carney, your banker scam screwed us. Sing your Trudeau's lapdog with better filters. I'd fix things, but only for La Belle Province. Deal with it.
Charming. Poilievre, save us from these clowns.
Canada, while Carney's yachting with his loonies and Singh's chasing clout, you're stuck choosing between bread and gas. I'll cut taxes, build houses, and make Canada great. Not a banker's playground or a TikTok prop.
My trusts are flawless, you peasant.
Rude. My vibes are policy, okay?
Too Canadian. Gross.
Freedom, prosperity. Canada, any questions?
I hope some dander gets up on Thursday night during the debate. I truly hope that we do get a dust up of some kind. And There should be a situation where they can go at each other without the moderators getting in the way. But you know how Canadians are so polite. Oh my God, we can't talk over each other. We can't be rude to each other. We need that. We need to get some venting out there. We need to get these people in a position where they can be called out on their positions. Speaking of which, Mark Carney says he's going to defend the charter. This after Pierre Poilievre said yesterday that he would use the notwithstanding clause to make prisoners stay in prison if they've done heinous crimes like, murder, rape, that kind of thing. And right now, it's at the situation where life is not life. And he wants to give consecutive sentences, right? So if a judge says life in prison in Canada, they mean like 20, 25 years or less, you get out for good behavior. What Poilievre wants to do is make these sentences consecutive so they can get up to 75, 100 years in prison, depending on how many people they kill. But Mark Carney says he's going to stand up for the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And we'll get to that in just a second. This piece came from Sam Cooper and the Bureau.news. CSIS warned Beijing would brand conservatives as Trumpian. And now Carney's campaign is actually doing it. I'm not going to give you the whole article because Sam requires a subscription on his page, and I do not want to give out anything of his for free. Canadian intelligence reported in 2021 that Beijing planned to interfere in Canada's next federal election. So if you want the rest of this, you just got to go subscribe to Sam Cooper's The Bureau on Substack. Anyway, they would interfere in Canada's next federal election with disinformation suggesting the Conservatives will follow the path of Donald Trump. A narrative now echoed in a clandestine dirty tricks operation exposed inside Mark Carney's campaign. The warning comes from a classified CSIS bulletin dated December 20th, 2021, and marked secret, distributed to Canadian departments including Global Affairs Canada, the Privy Council Office, the Communications Security Establishment, and Five Eyes intelligence partners. The report was based on information from Chinese consular officials in Canada. According to the CSIS assessment, a consulate official in mid-November of 2021 discussed how Chinese influence in federal ridings with large Chinese Canadian populations had proven effective and laid out a forward-looking strategy to shape future electoral outcomes, the official reportedly stated. Ethnic Chinese voters should be told that if the CPC wins a federal election, the CPC will follow the path of former at the time, United States President Donald Trump and ban Chinese students from certain universities or educational programs. This will threaten the future of the voters' children. The consulate official also suggested that during Canada's next federal election, the message should be circulated that the Conservative Party of Canada is critical of the PRC and opposed to individuals from mainland China. The remarks were made shortly after Justin Trudeau's Liberals won a minority government in the fall of 2021. CSIS concluded that PRC officials believed Chinese immigrants were relatively easy to influence towards Beijing's geopolitical goals and could be mobilized to oppose Canada's Conservative Party. That is sick. Like, the playbook is being played here. And where's the left-wing corporate media on this? The bulletin describes a broader context in which Chinese state actors sought to paint Canadian Conservatives as hostile to immigrants, aligned with Trump-style nationalism. The Bureau's analysis suggests that if Chinese state-linked actors intended to repeat this narrative in the 2025 federal campaign, they would find their narrative echoed by the Liberal Party's own war room tactics. And they are. Wow. They are working hand in hand with the communist Chinese government. This election is so fixed, but they can't fix it at the ballot, so they have to fix it in the writ period. They have to fix it in the campaign. That's what they're doing. That's what all these polls are, you guys. Do not believe them. Now more than ever, you need to believe the rallies. Mark Carney this morning acknowledged wrongdoing inside his campaign following revelations that Liberal operatives had planted fake political buttons at a major Conservative conference in an effort to smear Poilievre's campaign as a Trump-style threat to Canada. Even the CBC, which is saying a lot, thought this tactic was absolute crap. Watch this.
The statement we got from the party yesterday was crap in terms of, there are stronger words I would like to use. It spoke around the issue without speaking to the issue. It was all this nonsense, passive voice, and it reminded me of the comms troubles they had when they were at 16% in the polls. So, Lisa, I don't know if they've learned from that near-death experience in terms of addressing an issue clearly. The Liberal leader was better at it today, but you know, I take Jonathan's point. There's thousands of volunteers across the country, and there's always some meathead who's going to rip down a sign or something like that in a riding. But this is right out of the war room, this sort of thing, and it kind of undermines what Mark Carney's central pitch is to Canadians in this campaign.
For sure. And it was very nefarious. I don't think it was innocent at all. I mean, I looked up to see what the other buttons were that were out there. I mean, we've done button competitions in the past, but it's usually mocking people. It's not about actively seeking to draw attention to an issue to make it sound more Trumpy than what they are. So, for example, Lock Justin Up was one of them. Wexit Now. Make Canada Great Again. I mean, what is this crap? They should absolutely be off the campaign. They're lucky they're not getting charged. They should be talked about whether or not they're spreading disinformation by this committee in the House of Commons or by this committee of bureaucrats. I mean, this is absolutely outrageous. And for us to tut it away as, oh, well, you know, kids are being kids. The other part, David, that really bugs me, I'm on a roll now. The other part that really bugs me about this whole thing is the hubris and the arrogance of bragging about it and not giving a damn. Like, do they think they're that far ahead in the polls that it's not that terrible to talk about out loud that they're going to get away with it? So, you know what? Toss the lot of them. Mark's got a big problem if he's letting that rot inside his campaign. And if they're only reassigning them, then it's higher up than we expect.
I can't even believe this. I mean, I can, but I can't. How our country is being, well, it's a coup d'etat right now. China is taking over or trying to take over. And most Canadians are still absolutely blind to this. As a matter of fact, if you go and say this to a Liberal voter right now, they'll call you crazy, or they'll say, well, it's better than the United States. It's better than Trump. Are you freaking kidding me right now? You would rather be run by communist China, a country that has been conducting a genocide, sorry, you two, but that's what it is, since 2014 against the Uyghur people. You would rather live in a authoritarian communist country or under the rule of a totalitarian communist country than the land of the free and the home of the brave. Are you freaking kidding me right now? They don't understand how deep this goes. And yet Mark Carney has said just today, because of Pierre Poilievre's comments using the notwithstanding clause yesterday, Mark Carney seems to feel that somehow not using the notwithstanding clause is the right thing to do when it comes to dangerous felons. Watch this.
Pierre Poilievre announced today he would use the notwithstanding clause to push through his tough on crime agenda. Is there any case you'd invoke the clause to override the charter?
I think this is a very dangerous step. We have a charter of rights and fundamental freedoms in this country, and it's the responsibility, in my view, of the Prime Minister, of the Government of Canada to defend that charter, those fundamental rights and responsibilities and liberties that Canadians enjoy. The politicizing certain issues with respect to fundamental rights is a slippery slope that leads to further politicization. And I understand if I was correctly briefed, it won't surprise you, I didn't watch Mr. Poilievre's press conference, but if I was correctly briefed, that it relates to issues of heinous crimes and murders. You know, being tough on crime and being tough starts with being smart on crime. And it includes being tough on guns and gun violence. And I note that, with regret, that Mr. Poilievre has voted against every single gun control measure during his very long career as a career politician and member of the House of Commons. I think it's over 200 times. So we're focused on results. We've just tightened those gun measures with announcements which I think you saw a few days ago. We'll continue to do so. But we will defend the charter rights of Canadians on principle because it's the right thing to do.
We will defend the charter rights of Canadians, including dangerous criminals, violent offenders, because it's the right thing to do. And then he goes around the country and he talks about cleaning up crime. Like, what are you talking about? And how are people buying this complete and total BS? This man is a snake. So let's go to this story here from the Western Standard that came out a couple of weeks ago, I would say. And the headline is Sedition in Ottawa. Carney refuses to comment on his Freedom Convoy condemnation. The RCMP, in internal emails, ridiculed Carney for misreading sedition laws. When did this come out? March 27th. Mark Carney would not comment when asked about his past claim the 2022 Freedom Convoy protest against COVID-19 mandates was seditious. According to Blacklock's reporter, the RCMP at the time ridiculed Carney for appearing to cut and paste the definition. Whoa, plagiarism again? Mark? From an American dictionary into a Globe and Mail, so it was the Globe and Mail column, claiming peaceful protesters committed sedition in Ottawa. It's time to end the sedition in Ottawa, by enforcing the law and following the money. So when he says follow the money, what does that mean? That means getting all the people who donated to the Freedom Convoy via Give, Send, Go, and that was hacked by that criminal who is now up on charges and hopefully going to jail. And then illegally taken by the government and illegally given to the banks so these people could have their bank accounts frozen. That apparently was Mark Carney's idea, if I'm reading this quote right. It's time to end the sedition in Ottawa by enforcing the law and following the money. Speaking to reporters at the Ambassador Bridge in Windsor, again, this is a couple of weeks ago, the scene of a short-lived protest 3 years ago, Carney was asked for his reflections on the Freedom Convoy movement. What do you say to Canadians who lost trust in the Liberals back then and do not have trust in you now? Asked one reporter. Well, look, I haven't been a politician, Carney said, who was then Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's economic advisor and apparently other things as well. I became a politician a little more than 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago. I came in because I thought this country needed big change. We needed big change in the economy. Just completely sidestep the question. In Carney's 2022 Globe column headlined, "It's time to end the sedition in Ottawa," he likened the protest to a conspiracy to topple the 44th Parliament. "No one should have any doubt," wrote Carney. "This is sedition. That's a word I never thought I'd use in Canada. It means incitement of resistance to or insurrection against lawful authority. The constant blaring of horns at all hours, the harassment of people, the culture of fear have been making residents' lives hell, will bankrupt our businesses, and if left unchecked would help achieve the convoy's goal of undermining our democracy." No, that's what Antifa does. That's what those masked Palestinian protesters do. You can't tell the difference between regular, ordinary, hard-working Canadians from every part of the country and paid protesters wearing masks? Anyone sending money to the convoy should be in no doubt. You are funding sedition. Foreign funders of an insurrection interfered in our domestic affairs. That's what Carney said in that piece in the Globe and Mail 3 years ago. The RCMP in internal emails ridiculed Carney for misreading sedition laws and that Carney's definition appeared to be cut and paste from the American Merriam-Webster dictionary. The Canadian Criminal Code stipulates use of force is required for a charge of sedition. The key bit there is the use of force. Were you at the convoy? Did you see any force used there at all? I'm all about a resolution to this and a forceful one with us victorious, but from the facts on the ground, I don't know we're there, except in a small number of cases. Agreed, replied another RCMP officer. Here's Mario for the North talking about this very thing.
2 seconds. Do you remember when the Emergencies Act was enacted on the protesters and it was deemed unconstitutional and unreasonable? Take a wild guess whose idea this was. Mark Carney, published February 7th, 2022. It's time to end the sedition in Ottawa by enforcing the law and following the money. Those who are occupying the downtown of our country's capital, they are not patriots. This is not about restoring freedom, but the beginning of anarchy. It's not a rush of blood to the head, it's deliberate and calculated, and because of that, they must know that from now on, there will be consequences for their actions. Those who are still helping to extend this occupation must be identified and punished to the full force of the law. Drawing the line means choking off the money that finances occupation. But by now, anyone sending money to the convoy should be in no doubt you are funding sedition. Foreign funders of an insurrection interfered in our domestic affairs from the start. Canadian authorities should take every step within the law to identify and thoroughly punish them. The involvement of foreign governments and any officials connected to them should be identified, exposed, and addressed. I know from experience that crises don't end by themselves. This is insane. How has no one talked about that? This is our Prime Minister right now. It was his idea. He was advising the Liberal government, and he's been an advisor to Trudeau for a very long time. You see it there for yourself. He advised for this. It was deemed unreasonable and it violated the Charter of Rights. And they want to appeal the decision. They are appealing the decision. This is who people want for their Prime Minister. This is insane.
Mark Carney, you know that carbon tax we've been paying for almost 10 years now? It's been going up and up and up and up. Well, Mark Carney says that it didn't really do anything. Here he is. Okay.
Look at the emissions reductions that come from the consumer carbon tax alone. It's about 6%, CIS, of the overall emissions reduction. So it's something, but it's not very much. And so the vast majority of emission reduction work is being done by the large emitters, the large polluters. And what we've done there is tightening the carbon market, creating a new system where they are paying for emission reductions of households, so a positive incentive there, reinforcing investment tax credit and other element approaches to drive that clean energy investment. Remember, 80% of final emission reduction comes from final demand for energy, so it matters what happens in the energy system. We're driving that. Last point, we're looking to double the home building, but we're looking to double home building in a way that those new homes are emitting 20% less in the construction of those homes, and that those new homes are much more climate efficient when they're built. So you can say that's not a climate plan because it's a home building plan, it's a plan for affordability. Both of those things are true. It's a plan that's targeted at younger Canadians, but it's a plan that's building an entire Canadian industry.
So young Canadians can afford a modular home because that's what Brookfield invested billions of dollars in, 2-3 years ago now? And now Mark Carney wants Canadians, tax dollars, to invest in modular homes. So we can sell young people with young families modular homes with, no yards? Or maybe they have to rent the land. Kind of like the situation in a national park where you don't own the land, but you own the home. And you have to lease the land from the government, that kind of a thing. I think that's what he wants. No basement, no actual yard, not really. This is insane, the path we're going on, ladies and gentlemen. And I've covered all of this. Everything that Mark Carney is doing step by step by step has been covered on this show as part of the World Economic Forum /UN Great Reset. That's what's happening right now with Mark Carney in Canada. We need people to wake up, especially those boomers who are dead set on voting Liberal. Well, Pierre Poilievre is trying to change that, and so he made an announcement today regarding seniors being scammed.
That's why today I am announcing our plan to stop scammers who target Canadian seniors. We're going to pass the Stop Scamming Seniors Act, a common-sense law that forces banks and telecom companies to deploy state-of-the-art technology to catch scams and stop them before they happen, not after, when it is too late. This plan has a number of key steps. 1, we will mandate real-time scam detection systems by banks and telecoms, starting with seniors' accounts. 2, we will require automatic flagging and blocking of suspicious activity like unusual transactions or robocall traffic. 3, we will create the Seniors Transaction Shielding Protocol, a 24-hour hold on a high-risk transaction for seniors or anyone else who requests this extra protection with mandatory verification before money leaves their accounts. 4, we will impose public reporting requirements so Canadians know how many scams are being blocked or missed. 5, we will impose mandatory jail time of 1 year for $5,000 of fraud, 3 years for a fraud of over $100,000, 5 years for fraud over $1 million, and minimum fines that are 10 times the size of the frauds committed. You steal 50 grand, you'll pay 500 grand on top of your jail sentence. We want to financially cripple the fraudsters to deter their greed. 6, we will introduce tough penalties with up to $5 million per violation for companies that fail to deploy the latest technology to stop scams. 7, we will create a new criminal code offense, willful blind profiteering from fraud, holding executives criminally responsible if they knowingly let scams go unchecked. Our seniors deserve to feel safe and secure when they pick up their phones, iPads, or computers.
He also suggested there's AI programs out there these scammers are running that can simulate the voice of a grandmother's grandson. Grandma, I'm in Taiwan right now. I'm in jail and I need money. Now, I hadn't heard about this, and there's so many other really high-tech scams out there. But this, to me, sounds like an add-on from the Conservative Party of Canada. They've never really talked about this before, not really. But they're trying to get that boomer vote. They're trying to get the grandmas and grandpas out there to come vote for them. And they had them. This is the weird thing about how this particular election seems to be changing the demographics of voting in this country. Normally, the Conservatives can depend on those people who are 55 and older and have a rough time with the young people who generally vote NDP or Liberal. But now it seems to be reversed. Now it seems like the votes are bleeding from the NDP. Yes, they're going to the Liberals, a lot of them, but many of them are going to the Conservatives. And we're talking about young, working class people who are just looking to be able to afford a home. So Poilievre is hammering on that. And also to them, the CBC has become irrelevant, not so much to the older people, right? They still like their CBC for some reason. I don't know why. It's habit, I guess. They've been doing it for 30 or 40 years now. But Poilievre remains committed to defunding, not removing or dismantling the CBC. He's never said that. He said defunding. They should go and they should be able to survive on their own if they're just that good. We know they're not. But they should be given that opportunity. And that's what Poilievre is doing. Watch this.
It's a simple yes or no question. Will you defund the CBC within 100 days of government?
I don't have a time frame, but we've already said, I've already made my position clear on that, and it hasn't changed. We're going to defund the CBC and let Canadians enjoy it as a nonprofit, self-funded organization. Yeah, which is what I've said all along, while protecting services at Radio-Canada, because without Radio-Canada, the francophones across the country would not have access to that information.
I don't know about that. Sounds like a carve-out, and he's doing it for a different reason. It's not like Quebec is that important to the Conservative Party. right? I mean, like I said earlier, the Conservatives do have seats in Quebec, but they don't have like 50 of them. They've got 10, maybe 11, 12 possibly. So that's why the Conservative Party is not as beholden to Quebec as the Liberals are, obviously. So I'm wondering what the rationale behind that is. I mean, defund it all. Just get rid of it all. You know, the Francophone Canadians who don't have CBC will find another way. They'll get Starlink satellite services, I'm sure. Completely, you know, like to replace everything they're losing, and they'll get it quickly. Because that's how Elon Musk does business. Speaking of the CBC, somehow one of these CBC reporters got into the White House today to ask our White House press secretary a question regarding Canada and how Trump feels about it. And it sounds to me, I think her name is Katie Simpson, it sounds to me like she's trying to gin up the old 51st state rhetoric. Watch this.
President Trump's tone when it comes to Canada-U.S. relations, Canadians have noticed it's shifted a bit in the past few weeks. Ever since the election campaign started, he stopped talking about Canada becoming the 51st state, at least publicly. I'm wondering if that's on purpose and why.
I would reject the president's position on Canada has shifted. Perhaps he just hasn't been asked about Canada by questions from this group in the Oval Office, but they see him almost every day. But the president still maintains his position on Canada. The United States has been subsidizing Canada's national defense, and he believes that Canadians would benefit greatly from becoming the 51st state of the United States of America.
So just that comment from Caroline there, just that comment started a rage of tweeting going on X. Just that one little thing. And do you think that maybe that CBC reporter did that on purpose? That she was sent down there to do just that? Anything to save our funding. And to save our funding, we need Mark Carney and the Liberal Party to win, because he's already said that he'll give us more money, probably double. And he's going to write us into law so that it won't be so easy for Pierre Poilievre or any conservative to get rid of the CBC in the future if they ever form government again. So you go down there, Katie, and you make sure that you get her, or Trump even, to talk about Canada as a 51st state again. I certainly hope this doesn't get any traction, because it's absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And Pierre Poilievre needs to stop talking about it as well. Even though he won't, he hasn't. Here he is today talking about it again.
First of all, President Trump deserves nothing but condemnation for the unfair targeting of Canada. While he's lifting tariffs and backing down on tariffs all around the world, he continues to tariff our auto sector. There's nobody who's going to be able to control President Trump, as Mr. Carney is learning, despite his promises. What we should do is focus on what we can control, and that is to reverse the disastrous liberal economic policies that Mr. Carney advised Trudeau to take, that have driven up taxes, blocked our resources, wrapped our businesses in red tape, and driven $500 billion south. We need change. We can't afford a fourth Liberal term. We need change to axe taxes, cut red tape, approve resource projects, make this the best place in the world to do business. That will allow us to, once again, be a country where hard work pays off, with a great paycheck and a reliable job in an affordable house on a safe street. We need is change. This is a change election. Change so that you can afford food and a home. Change so that your paycheck grows faster than your cost of living. Change so that you're safe in your neighborhood. Thank you.
Merci. Prochaine question.
No, we should not lift the counter tariffs.
Yes, we should. Yes, we should. Because the countries that don't retaliate against the U.S. tariffs, according to Donald Trump and his Secretary of the Treasury down there, are the ones who are going to be able to make deals going forward with the United States. And only two countries have retaliated against the United States: China and Canada. And what do those tariffs do to us? They hurt us, not the Americans. The Americans can swat us away like a fly. I'm not going to get into that again. I noticed somebody in the comments, as that clip was playing, suggest that Pierre Poilievre is a puppet, and I don't disagree. What politician that you know of in your entire life has not been one, who's not beholden to some union or some large corporations, they all have been. Randy Hillier explained that on the show last week. Very well, actually. It's a game. It's a game you play. And they give you money, and then you win. And so you're beholden to them, and that's how it goes. Here's the difference, and this is something I've been saying for quite some time, you guys, and you know this, the ones who are here every night. You know what I'm about to say. In my opinion, and I can't be sure about this, but it certainly seems that this is how it's shaped up. There are at least two cabals in play. In this war, what we've got is the Trump/Israel cabal. And whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not, that's the cabal we've always had in our entire lifetimes. That's the way it's been. And that's who Poilievre represents. The other cabal is the World Economic Forum/China cabal. And the EU cabal, same thing. And that is who Mark Carney represents. Would you rather live the way you've lived in your entire life? Or would you rather be locked down under climate regulations for the rest of your life, like Mark Carney has planned for us in the EU and China and the World Economic Forum, because that's their plan. So yeah, you can sit there and call Poilievre a puppet. I'm not going to disagree with you. But which cabal do you choose? At this stage of the game, Canada is up for grabs, like the game of Risk. We are on the game board, and they're bidding on us. There's a war going on. Didn't you know that? And for anybody who thinks that Canada's Canada, and we're ever going back to being this proud, strong nation, no, that's not going to happen. And I think that in our lifetimes, we never really have been. It's all been an illusion, and we've always been under the nuclear umbrella of the United States. Whether you like it or not, that is the reality of the situation. So Canada's not for sale. Sheila Gunn Reid from Rebel News posted this today on X, and I thought this was hilarious because people had been buying these sweatshirts and hats up, right, when Doug Ford was talking about cutting off power to the Americans, not even realizing with our integrated pipeline system that Donald Trump could just shut off Canadian oil and gas from Alberta to Ontario anytime, and Quebec anytime he wanted to, because the pipeline runs into the United States from Manitoba and doesn't come back to Canada until it gets to Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Duh. Doug Ford. Canada's not for sale. Ooh, that's a nice looking shirt. I want one of those. Where was it made? Canada's not for sale. Oh, look at that. There's a great hat. I want one of those. Where was it made? Let's see here. What does that say? Made in Haiti. Haiti. And then the other one, the hat, made in China. Look at this one. This is a story from our publicly funded left-wing corporate, neo-Marxist Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Canadian university teachers warned against traveling to the United States. Hey, be careful. You don't go down there, man. There's a lot of badass rednecks down there. Maybe even the Klan will be after you if you got your pink hair. And you act at all like your trans self. The association that represents academic staff at Canadian universities is warning its members against non-essential travel to the United States. The Canadian Association of University Teachers says it released updated travel advice Tuesday to the political landscape created by the Trump administration and reports of some Canadians encountering difficulties while crossing the border. The association says academics who are from countries that have tense diplomatic relations with the United States or who have themselves expressed negative views about the Trump administration should be particularly cautious about attempting to cross the border. They're suggesting that these border security officials are partisan in some way. Now, maybe they are, but they're not supposed to be. I think it's all a bunch of crap. I have not seen any video of an interaction like that. I've only heard reports, and you know what these people are like. You saw the video of that crazy neo-Marxist taking down conservative signs in Markham last night. He's crazy. I think that's where these reports are coming from people like that. It says the warning also particularly applies to people whose research could be seen as being at odds with the position of the current U.S. administration or who identify as transgender. In addition, the association says academics should carefully consider what information they have or need to have on their electronic devices when crossing the border and take actions to protect sensitive information. My God, this is hilarious. Trudeau Foundation cuts family ties after audit clears Chinese donation. Again, a great piece from the Western Standard. So the Trudeau Foundation has kicked out the Trudeaus. The Pierre Elliott Trudeau Foundation has formally severed its relationship with the Trudeau family, concluding a chapter marked by controversy over foreign donations. Blacklock's reporter, this is a great news organization, and if you've got the extra cash, maybe think about subscribing. They say, well, a 15-month federal audit found no wrongdoing in the handling of a $140,000 gift linked to Beijing interests. Of course they didn't. Of course they didn't. You know there was, but they didn't find anything. The foundation announced it's completely restructured its relationship, its leadership and governance to preserve its independence. The bylaws were updated, and representatives of both the family of Pierre Elliott Trudeau and the government of Canada formally ended their roles in the foundation's governance, stated the organization's 2024 annual report. Alexandra Trudeau, who had served as executive director and represented the family, stepped down in November of last year. The change follows the 2023 mass resignation of the foundation's CEO and the entire board. Billboard Chris put this up on his X today. He says, I'm hosting, now what's the date today? The 15th. So 10 days from now in Nepean, if you're in the Ottawa area. Chris says he's hosting a protest on April the 25th in Ottawa's Nepean riding, where Prime Minister Mark Carney is running for a seat. Details to follow, but all are welcome. Please plan to be there by 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll be going for a walk through the riding, including past Carney's campaign headquarters. This is not a partisan protest. This is for Conservatives, Liberals, PPC, NDP, Green Party, Bloc Québécois supporters who want to see an end to the greatest child abuse scandal in modern medicine history. Carney cannot continue to ignore the evidence. Neither can Pierre Poilievre, who does everything in his power to avoid this subject, and he does, let's be honest. They know exactly what's going on. All countries which have conducted systemic reviews of the scientific literature have found a shocking lack of safeguarding, no evidence to support this mad experiment of childhood sex changes. Under a left-wing Labour government in England, they've banned puberty blockers. Same thing with the SNP in Scotland, who went a step further and also banned cross-sex hormones for children. Sweden and Finland conducted their own systemic reviews and all but put a stop to this practice. The entire world is waking up to the truth. When he was on the show last year, or maybe the year before, I can't remember, he said this would be a political no-brainer, a political winner. And yet, for some reason, all of these people are terrified to speak out about it. Every political party, you would think that Poilievre would be all over this. He says, what we see on his X and all of the videos we've seen of confrontations with people who, the crazies who walk up to him and they start picking a fight. He says, Billboard Chris does, all of the, well, not all, 99% of the people that he speaks with are on board with him. Immediately, some take a little bit longer, some take a little bit more conversation until they're finally up to speed on exactly what's going on in these public schools all across the world. But then they go, yeah, like that doesn't make any sense. Of course, men are men, women are women. That's just the way it is. That's how God makes us. So he's mystified that these politicians won't take that ball and run with it. The entire world is waking up to it, he says. Protecting our kids from irreversible harm is not a partisan issue. It's something that should be front and center in all of these political campaigns. So again, that is coming up on, what, April 25th, did I say at the beginning? Let's see here. Yeah, April 25th in Nepean. So if you're on X, follow at Billboard Chris, or you can follow him on Facebook as well and get all the details. You know what I'm wondering? How come we haven't heard about the immigration issue so much in this campaign? I mean, nobody is talking about it. Has it been settled already? I don't think so. Here's a video that was making the rounds on social media the last few days. Comes from Ontario, where a DoorDash delivery man sits in the drink of a guy he's delivering to. Now, this is about 3 minutes long. The guy is obviously an immigrant. I don't know where he's from. But watch this. It's fascinating because this guy catches him on video doing it, right? And then just tears a strip.
So sorry.
Drink your spit.
So sorry, sir.
Okay? Spitting in my drink.
So sorry.
Why did you? This is for my son, my 2-year-old son.
Yeah.
Why would you spit in my drink?
So sorry, sir.
Why? Why? I want to know why you did it.
I don't
For
know.
what? We tipped you. What's the problem?
No problem, sir. My kids are my car.
Your kids are in your car, so you spit in my drink for my kids, right? Should I come spit in your kid's water bottle?
Then, sir, I bring another two.
Should I spit in your kid's water bottle?
Sorry, sir. So sorry, sir. Then, so I'm so sorry.
So should my son drink this, or you should drink it? You drink it right now. You drink it, take that seal off, and you're gonna drink your spit. Okay, give me my drink. I want you to drink that right now.
So
Okay?
sorry,
Drink it.
sir. I'm so Muslim,
Drink
sir.
it.
I'm Muslim, sir, so I don't.
You don't drink what? Fruit juice? Or you don't drink your own spit?
Okay, no problem. I drink it after.
So drink it.
Sorry, sir.
No, drink it now. You spit in my drink, right? So drink it.
I don't
That's your
understand
spit
why-
in there.
I don't
You
understand
broke
how-
the seal.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you broke the seal. I have it on camera. You broke the seal and you spit in my drink, right? I have it on camera. My car records. My phone records. Everything records. Don't act like you didn't do it. I have you on camera.
Okay, sir, I'm so sorry.
Drink your spit,
So sorry, sir.
okay? Shame on you. Shame on you.
So sorry again.
Yeah, so sorry for spitting in my drink. Good for your kids. And your kids don't have seatbelts on. They should be in car seats. Why do your kids not have seatbelts on?
I just come nearby, so.
You just live nearby? They should have seatbelts on. Why do your kids not have car
Why?
seats? Okay? Don't spit in my kid's drink. You never come to my house again. You understand?
Okay, okay.
Don't ever come to my house again.
He's washing.
Huh?
That is still washing.
Get the fuck out of here.
Language warning.
Wait. You wait. Yeah, you wait. You wait right there. Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah, pull him over. He's trying to drive off. Pull him over.
Hey, George, relax.
Got both his kids in the back with no seatbelt, no car seat.
Yeah. So, you know, I get a kick out of when you guys, but that's an old video. I've seen. So what? There's a lot of people who haven't seen it. It's not that big a deal. Just because you've seen it doesn't mean that the world has seen it. And you know, a lot of these things do go viral repeatedly, right? It's like when Bohemian Rhapsody was a hit again in the 1990s after being first released in 1975. It just kind of recycles itself. And with the immigration issue that's been plaguing our country for the last little while, I think that people should see that. Now, here's the thing, at least my opinion on this. I believe that there is a huge difference in the way people from the Middle East or India or Pakistan conduct themselves in day-to-day life than in the Western world. We had the story last year of many Indian immigrants pooping on the beaches in Ontario. And then there was the police visiting the young lady that reported it, as I recall, suggesting hate crime. That was ridiculous. And she also had her TikTok taken down too, I think. But it was true. And people all over the place, not just the young lady reporting it, people all over the place were reporting that. They couldn't believe it. But that appears to be something that happens on the regular in India, in some places. Then there's the religious values. There's just the day-to-day life and values. We're different. Yes, we're all human beings. Most of us have the 5 fingers, 5 toes, 1 head, 2 arms, 2 legs. Most of us do. Some don't, but most of us do. And that makes us human. But other than that, there's not a lot of crossover in the way we live our lives. Culture shock. Have you ever experienced anything like that before? I'll tell you what, I moved across the country a lot as a radio person. I moved from Winnipeg to Calgary, to Saskatoon, to London, Ontario, to Ottawa. I lived in Kingston for a long time, all across the country. And each time you move into a new town in your own country, you experience a little bit of culture shock. The way they do things there is not at all the way they do things back where you come from. Now imagine moving halfway across the world to a country that is completely and totally foreign in every regard to you. Everything, religion, food, the works, music, all of it. That would be intimidating. And it was for a time for people who immigrated to Canada. But then more and more and more and more, 500,000, 600,000 start coming in a year. 750,000 depending on the situation, whether they're temporary visas or whether they're students or temporary workers, whatever it is. And they all start living together because that's the natural human response. And they don't like the fact that we, Canadians, let's call ourselves, what did Harper call us a few years ago at that debate in 2015? Old stock Canadians. They don't like us because they see us with stuff. They see us being comfortable. And then all of this rhetoric, this racial rhetoric that's going on. And yeah, they're organizing. The Sikhs, the Sikh Association of Canada issued a list of demands to all political parties in this election just yesterday. And the one that fills out the most of their demands is going to get their vote. I'm not exactly sure how many Sikhs there are in this country, maybe 500,000, maybe more. But that's political interference. That's extortion. That's absolutely outrageous. But they vote as a bloc. And that's how this is happening. When you talk about the replacement theory, that's what this is. That's what you see going on in your city or town, anywhere in this country. When you walk into any public place, whether it's Tim Hortons, whether it's a mall, do you feel like you're in your own country? I know I don't. And you get the vibe when some of them look at you, not all, but when some of them look at you, they don't like you at all. And they want you gone. And maybe this is how Native Canadians, Native Americans felt back in the 1830s and 40s when all the Europeans were coming over here. Interesting, isn't it? You guys ever hear of Bill Cooper? Milton William Cooper? He died in 2001 from a gunshot wound, but Wikipedia says he was an American conspiracy theorist. Also a radio broadcaster, author known for his 1991 book, Behold a Pale Horse, in which he warned of multiple global conspiracies, some involving extraterrestrial life. Here he is talking. And the reason I decided to play for this for you now as the final thing on the show tonight before we move to the extension on shadowdavis.com for the all accessors, and part 2 of part 8 of Europa, The Last Battle, is coming up for you guys tonight. And I remember where we left off last night. Don't worry about it. All you guys watching on the Telegram group right now, the Shadow at Night community on Telegram, thank you very much. I appreciate you. And by the way, if you are not a member, an all access member, I invite you to go and become one. shadowdavis.com. You'll also be eligible to win one of these mugs. We're going to give one of these away again on Thursday night. And then I've got a hat around here somewhere too, but I'm not happy with it. I'm going to redesign it. Maybe you'd like it. I don't know. I think most people are going to go for the mug. Anyway, this guy, this Bill Cooper, I found this piece today. And I play this for you now because we're all distracted with the NHL playoffs apparently coming up. And you know, maybe it's going to take something away from the election. We got to keep our eye on the ball here. But watch what he says in this little clip here. It's about a minute long.
Who don't know anything in the world except who plays third base for the Mets. And they think that's a great accomplishment. And they meet and pat each other on the back and bond and go have cocktails and talk about what this guy that plays third base for the Mets did in last night's game. Sad. It's really sad. When 150 of the most powerful men and women in the world can meet in secret in Baden-Baden, Germany, and plot the fate of billions, and nobody even cares about it. But 6 football players go to lunch together, and it's in the headlines across the country. You have a reflection of the society in which that exists. And it is a sick, sick society that is doomed to self-destruction. A nation of people who are willing to send their sons and daughters that they profess that they love to a foreign country to die. And they use the excuse to themselves that they're sending them off to defend our country, and they know damn well that's a lie. Are doomed.
Thanks, Bill. I urge you to watch something funny before you go to bed tonight, lest you have nightmares. I will catch you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central, here on all the usual socials for another Shadow at Night live stream. Love you all. Appreciate you all. I will catch you on the extension in 2 minutes' time for all of you all access pass holders at shadowdavis.com. I'll see you in 2.